Hey everybody, it's Joe from greenlightsound.com, and today we're going to do a quick comparison between the new Waves plugin that just came out, the SSL Solid State Logic EV2 channel strip, the version 2 new version of the SSL E channel, versus the old 2006 original version. So the EV2 is newly modeled using new modeling technology, has a few extra features that the old E channel didn't have, and also has some different layout options. So in terms of new added features, we've got a new input section here, which is not included in the old SSL channel. And the input section models sort of the transformer saturation and distortion you get when you push the channel hard. And they've done input and output saturation modeling, so you can increase that THD, that harmonic distortion, using that mic and line level when the analog button's engaged. When that's off, it's just regular gain, clean gain. This will put the analog style saturation on the input and output sections of the channel strip. The old channel strip did have an analog button, but all that did is add noise. When you look down here in the kick subtrack, right below the old channel, when I turned that analog on, just added some really low level noise. It's not harmonic distortion, not the same thing as what's going on in the new modeling on this one. So I'll turn the analog off to begin with, or both of them, just to have a nice, easy comparison of the two. The layout's also a bit different. In the old SSL channel, it went filters, EQ, dynamics, and output. In the new one, after the input section, you've got your dynamics first, then filters, then EQ and output, which actually models the signal flow better. The default signal flow is dynamics first, then EQ. You can always take your dynamic section and click this channel out button. That puts it post EQ, but it actually models the layout better. This one can be a bit confusing. You think this might be EQ first because that's the way it's laid out on the plugin. That's not how it actually works. You've got some different metering on the output section. And then you've got a new width control at the bottom here where you can actually increase the width, go extra wide, which sounds really sort of phasey when you hear the different phase relationships between the channels. And one last new thing in the EQ, they've modeled both the brown and black knob revisions of the channel. They do sound quite different, especially in bell mode. We'll look at those in a second, but we're going to leave it on black because that's the old SSL's default setting and all that they had here. So I'm going to play a kick drum track here. And I have the exact same settings on both of these. I've got the same EQ, same compression, same gate settings, and I've automated it so that they're going to bypass on and off and flip back and forth between these two. So just take a look up here at the bypass button. In Studio One, when it's orange, it's bypassed, and when it's black, it's on. I've automated on and off, and we're going to listen to the two plugins back and forth and see if we hear a difference with the exact same settings. So I definitely heard a difference in the EQ section, especially. The compression characteristics pretty similar, but in the EQ section, those high mids sound a little bit more pushed in the old version and a little cleaner in the new version. Now if we put the analog mode on and kind of drive this input, you'll hear what this can really do, saturating the kick signal. Bring the output down. And with analog off, back in. Really thickens things up nicely. If I jump over to Plugin Doctor, you'll see exactly what that's doing. If we look at our harmonic analysis here, I'll turn the analog off. This is the input signal that Plugin Doctor's putting into it. No overtones at all. This is all just plugin noise down here. When I turn that analog mode on, here comes all of our harmonic overtones, our saturation. If I push this input level, we get more saturation here. Put this line level, get even more. We can really distort it a lot, adding a lot more of that total harmonic distortion. And again, off, none at all. You can have it be a clean digital version if you want it to be. Now, if I jump back to the linear analysis here, I've did a little boost on the black EQ on the low frequencies here. I put it in bell mode, and I've got an almost 6 dB boost at exactly 100 hertz. It says so in our readout here. When I switch to the brown knob version, you can see it's a much gentler, wider slope, and it's actually centered at 100 hertz, where it should be. For some reason, the black is centered at 70 or so hertz, so it's not really accurate to what you want it to be. To get this to actually sit at 100 hertz in the center of this bell, I've got to put it to almost 140, which is strange. It's actually skews to the left a little bit from what the readings say, which can be challenging if you're going to flip back and forth between these two, given that they have different center frequencies. Of course, they're totally different shapes as well. When you put it into the shelf mode, it's not quite as pronounced between the brown and black EQ, but it's a little different between those two. Now, jumping over to a guitar track, we're going to do the same exact thing. I'll bring up both versions of the plugin here, and I automated it on and off, so you'll see black is on, orange is bypassed, and we'll compare these two again with the exact same settings. Here we've got EQ processing, but no dynamics. Definitely another EQ difference here. I can hear a little bit of crackling when I'm changing back and forth. That is from my CPU spiking. If I open up my performance meter in Studio One here, and I usually do pretty good with a lot of plugins in a session, you can see the couple of instances I have of the new SSL version 2 channel strip. I'm pushing 13, 14% CPU usage. That's not great for a channel strip because we want to put this across many channels in a mix. And if you've got a large mix, if you're pushing over 10% on your CPU, even though I've got a little bit older system, I'm still pretty good usually, that means we can't use it on very many instances, less than 10 before we max out our CPU. That's not great for a channel strip, like I said. So the old SSL channel, I'm at 1%. I mean, obviously we're not modeling as in depth, but that's a lot more useful across a big mix than pushing over 10% of your CPU for one instance of this plugin. So performance might be an issue. I would definitely demo this before you buy it to make sure you can run it smoothly on your system. In terms of sound, I do like it. It's got a nice saturation on the input. It's got a nice layout. It looks good. The EQ seems to be a little bit more refined than in the old SSL version. Dynamics are pretty similar when I've compared the two, in my opinion. Recommended upgrade if it works smoothly on your system, but if you're thinking about using this across a large mix, it's a bit heavy on the CPU. Hopefully Waves and some other updates can kind of lower that down a little bit to get a nice sounding modeled version of this without killing us in processing. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, so we can keep you in the loop as to what's coming up next, and I'll see you in the next one.